All right. Our guest this hour is the Member of Parliament, Kitutu Chache South Constituency, Anthony Kibagendi. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
You've been in this seat before.
Yes.
We've had conversations about certain things, and now there are a number of things that we're having conversations about today. Mm-hmm. There are things that are happening, are there not? We've seen yesterday that we've been told that landlords and everybody else, in terms of this tax, you too are involved. There's a fertilizer scandal that's going on. Others are being arrested. Others are being impeached, or maybe not. There is the levy. The many levies at the moment.
Many levies. The doctors' strike.
The doctors are on strike. Everybody, the nurses have said they're also joining the strike. Mm-hmm. The teachers have said, even when you open school, we also will be on strike. Here, we have to ask the question about the Constitution and certain things about where we are. Mm-hmm. But that's just a preamble. Yes. Let's welcome you properly to the show today. CT's been going around. He'll tell you where he went this week and what are problems, and then you will tell us how that resonates with you today.
Anyway, this week we're in East Africa, and we're in a country that has a huge coastline on the Indian Ocean. The country is called Kenya, and the proverbs from Kenya are actually very simple, straightforward, and very easy to understand. All cassava have the same skin, but not all taste the same.
Yeah, just like there's this book by The Animal Farm, and in Kiswahili they say wanyama wote ni sawa, lakini what they say, every animal, all of us are the same, but we are not the same. The truth here, what it
in Animal Farm they say some are more.
They are more superior.
Well, they don't really use the word superior, but that's a general idea.
Yes. So
all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
Yeah. So when it says that the cassava have the same skin, but not all of them taste the same, it means, yes. My understanding is that while we are all the same, we do not experience everything in the same way.
Right.
Way from governance to even how we live. We experience things differently.
We do.
Yes.
Okay. Let's jump into it. Off the last thing that you said.
Yes.
We experience it differently. But in the country today, there are very many things that are going on.
Yes.
This one seems that it is going to be experienced the same by everybody, regardless of what it is. Let's start with what we saw yesterday. Housing levy. On your gross, landlords, anybody who collects anything on your gross, you will pay a certain amount. Then towards this levy, you will pay. This announcement has come. It's off of the back of what was already there before, and it seems to be taking the place by storm. It's in a list of things that we will discuss today. But let's look at that vis-a-vis what is currently happening with the Constitution, which, members of Parliament, Kenyans, government are meant to uphold. Give us an overview of what you think about that from a legislative point of view.
We are in an extremely unique period in this country where indeed, like you've said, a lot of things are going down south. Government keeps introducing new taxes. Government keeps introducing levies. And we have a legion of fearful UDA members of parliament that keep giving this government an opportunity to continue selectively oppressing Kenyans. And we, as members of the fourth estate, the media, we appreciate that you bring it to debate so that Kenyans can actually get informed, so that Kenyans can understand what is going on in government. The appetite for taxation, the appetite for levying Kenyans beyond what they can actually afford is a demonstration of an insensitive government, is a demonstration of a president who is determined to systematically oppress the people he is ruling, the people he's supposed to serve, just for his self-aggrandizement. We have a system of governance that has gone outside the constitution, whereby the people are the ones that are supposed to make decisions, in the sense that we need to be doing public participation, genuine public participation. And we, the members of parliament, are supposed to represent the views of the people. You find that when public participation is done in certain areas, it is skewed. It is the DCC, the ACC, the county commissioner that is running the process. And then the reports that are sent to parliament or to the headquarters are that people here are supporting this idea. And then you find that in parliament, the people's representatives, including, like, for example, the member of parliament for Kitutu, Chache North, who goes round his constituency to ask his people, do you think it is prudent for me to support this finance bill? Do you think it is prudent for me to support the housing levy? The people there tell him, no, go and vote no. But because him and his other voting puppets in parliament, the members of UDA and a few members of the opposition that have been bought to UDA, they go ahead and do the opposite. When government was doing public participation across the country, a bulk of Kenyans sent their concerns, almost 1,100 memos that were sent to actually the finance committee. 987 were against some of these levies and taxes. But what did they do? They ignored and focused on pushing the agenda of the executive instead of pushing the agenda of the masses.
I have to ask you
Parliament.
Sorry, can I, if I can jump in there?
Yes.
Because this is clear. You're talking about, 987 is a specific number.
Yes.
You only know that because you've seen. I would assume that you've seen
Yes.
this information, you've seen this data. It is a significant number if I'm going to assume that it was taken from a global picture in terms of who then participated, whereby, again, representatively, members of parliament then would insist that 1, 2, 3 happens because they're representing their people.
Yes.
So if such a significant number of those against the motion, for example, why would it be so easy then to have that pushed aside and we didn't hear the opposition to that particular thing at the time? Because speculatively, one would say that at the time where this clamor was needed to be heard, it was not.
What I would like to say is that when we realized that these people want to increase these taxes, we went around using the media, including this particular platform where you invited me. We went around and educated the masses, that is members of the opposition, and even the civil society. We have some progressive civil society organizations that made a point, including the Institute for Economic Affairs. There's a young man there called Owino, who kept talking to Kenyans. There are people that stand out in the housing sector, who stood up and said, this cannot work. This is not going to work. This is injurious to Kenyans right now. Because we have a lot of people that are willing to invest. Kenyans in the diaspora asked government to put together a fund, the fund they remit to this country, and give them a government guarantee that once they invest in the housing sector, government will be able to pay them if in a certain period the houses will not have been sold to those who are willing to buy. And indeed, they were willing to invest. I know of a group in the US that was willing to invest up to 200 billion Kenya shillings, equivalent. But government thought the easiest way is to tax Kenyans. And members of parliament were in parliament when that is the time, I think, other than the day we were being sworn in, that is the day I saw so many members of parliament. But the funny thing is, like it has always happened, you remember one time Moses Kuria said members of parliament were being paid 10,000 in the lavatories, yeah? And that is what happened this time round.
Is it?
Yes. Members of parliament get paid, the UDA members of parliament and those who supported this motion. They were even summoned to Naivasha where they were bribed by the executive.
How do you know this, Mheshimiwa?
You know, they are our friends. They
so
tell
they
us.
come and tell you,
yes.
we were actually
and when we're in the
order to
corridors, they
pass
tell
this
us,
motion.
Maze, this thing is injuring Kenyans. This thing is messing up Kenyans. But when they get to the house, they again vote for this thing that is messing up our country. You've spoken here and said teachers are threatening to go on strike. Do you know why? Their pay slips have been literally as they have nothing.
Let's
yes,
use that word.
they have nothing. Yes, they have nothing to spend. They have no purchasing power right now to take care of their other needs. We have, sorry, we have a government that is obsessed with taxing, with levying Kenyans, and then they say they are not able to pay teachers. Doctors. Do you know how much doctors need right now?
Corporately, how much?
4.9 billion Kenya shillings. And what, do you know how much?
Need or what they are owed?
That is what is needed to sort out this issue.
The whole interns issue, for example.
4.9 billion. Right. And do you know how much money is needed to renovate State House and the presidential dais?
Do tell.
The same amount. So you ask yourself.
What?
The dais, the presidential dais, they are going to spend, they are spending 1 billion shillings to renovate the presidential dais at State House.
It exists.
Yes.
But they now want to,
it doesn't have a problem. It is not broken.
They want to polish it up and make
they
it
want to probably gold coat it. Okay. Probably.
All right.
And then they also want to renovate State House and all these other state lodges at a cost of close to 6 billion shillings. And what the doctors...
We're not building anything new. We're just renovating.
Renovation.
Actually, I'm told by those who are in this industry that renovation sometimes costs a little more than actually building.
No. This is because it is about taking advantage of Kenyans and using that opportunity to siphon money that they'll be able to use to again manipulate Kenyans to vote for them, to probably change the constitution and come back with a system called a parliamentary system that will bring these people back to power to rule us as prime minister for so many years.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Even when we talk about members of parliament being bribed, we forget one element. They receive it. Have we had cases of members of parliament who are in the ruling coalition declining to take that money? You're an elected member. What's going to happen to you? You can't be unelected.
You can be recalled. There's a clause in the constitution that allows your constituents
to recall you.
How often has it happened?
It hasn't happened because it has been made so difficult and so rigorous in terms of financial injection. Because you have to move around, you have to put people, do public participation.
Which means the exposure that these MPs have is already protected. What I'm trying to say is, when people speak about how it is they seem to understand the problems of the country, but yet they feel that they're willing to receive this money,
right.
You see, then I think they are not speaking the truth. They don't. If they actually believed it was a problem,
they would sort it out.
They would say no. They would say, "Look, Mheshimiwa, this one, or Excellency, whoever it is they're speaking to, we see what you're saying, and it's necessary to get together as a party. But I see the people who elected me suffering from this because, as you present it, these aren't problems that are facing one group of people in the country. They are things that are going to face everybody in the country."
Yes.
Yes. So the MPs don't have any danger, apart from perhaps losing out on a few trips, which...
Even those ones, they're not supposed to lose, because speaking out and doing their job is what brought them to parliament.
That's what they're elected to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, the problem we have is the affiliation, is the it is not even loyalty to your party. That is a demonstration of lack of loyalty, because a party is made up of members of who are from across the country. So what it is greed, let's call it that.
But if we're to be fair, I often have this view that we're all greedy, really. I mean, I used to oppose the notion when people say that, those of you who elect us, this is now elected leaders talking to us here, we mirror you. They are clearly 100% right.
Yes.
You know why I'm saying this? Huh? Talking about corruption in this country doesn't move the needle. It's like we've gotten to a point where we have accepted.
Which is bad.
But is it possible to talk to constituents and citizens about the money that you speak of in terms of amounts and what it is supposed to do for you? Mm-hmm. Like now you're giving the example of a dais and the renovation, and you're saying, okay, let's look at amounts, just amounts. Mm-hmm. We're talking about 4.9 billion. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. If this is what we're supposed to do, and money has been found to do this, and the doctors need a similar amount. So on a weighing scale,
what is the priority?
What do you think is a priority here?
Pay the doctors.
Exactly. Now, in the same way, when the government talks about taxes, which they will levy and which we will pay, because it's not as though it's, would you like to pay? It is you are going to pay. Okay?
Yes.
Is it also possible to let the citizens know that, yes, by all means, these taxes will be paid by you, but this is what you should expect in return?
That is what happens in developed countries.
And this is what must happen here. You must tell people, you're paying these taxes, you must demand this.
Yes.
Not wait just for your MP. You're paying taxes.
Yes.
MP pays taxes.
Yes.
Demand, this is what the taxes are for, and this is what you must receive. When you don't receive it, say, folks, explain to me why I should continue paying you.
Yes.
When you're clearly not giving me what you said you're going to give me for the money I'm paying you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, the regular hostile attitude by those in power, by those in the executive, and their manipulation tendencies is what has brought us to where we are. They use these members of parliament to pass budgets, to pass laws, to pass irregular expenditures that have gotten us to where we are. Today, we are talking about food insecurity that drives inflation in this country. But we are here speaking about a possibility of saving a cabinet secretary who was involved in irregularities in purchasing of fertilizer, whereby the ministry bought, through his leadership, the ministry bought a certain quantity of fertilizer that was less than what they needed. They went on to reformulate that fertilizer with sand and in Kiswahili we call it kokoto, yeah? And then we have an executive.
It's called gravel.
It slipped my mind. We have an executive that is so desperate to save this particular person. So we ask ourselves, and they are intimately associated. So we ask ourselves, is it that even the president knew about this? It was a deal that has just gone sour, or a deal that has just didn't actually succeed? Had they been able to hoodwink Kenyans adequately like they intended? Because what should have happened from the start, when government owned up that the fertilizer was inappropriate, the Minister for Agriculture should have stepped aside.
Okay.
By stepping aside, we do investigations. And the president assures him, if you are not culpable, if you are not involved, then we are going to bring you back so that we deal with those that were involved. Right now, the person that was involved is walking around and even blackmailing the executive. That is why they want to save him. And those who are not involved, ordinary small fishes at NCPB have already been arrested. Yeah. But what I like about this country lately, and about the masses, and even about the media, is that you are able to step up and say, hey, yes, you are arresting those ones, but you are not going to distract us. We want answers to this particular question. And that is why this has gone on to the extent members of parliament have said, no, as responsible members of parliament, we have an opportunity to demonstrate to Kenyans that we can stand in for them.
Okay.
And that is why Honorable Jack Wamboka, the MP for Bumula, came up with the impeachment motion that I seconded in parliament, which is a demonstration that parliament can actually work. But on this one, for once, members of parliament from especially Rift Valley that was also very affected with this fake fertilizer and even seeds. The seeds that were sent there were not the right seeds.
Yeah.
They actually stood up and said, no. We have gotten too relaxed with the misgivings of this government. We have now to stand up and say no.
Why do you think that your colleagues from the Rift Valley decided to actually join the fray?
Why is because I read a lot on social media. I realized that the people there, the citizens, were up in arms because it is literally the breadbasket of this country, and they are the most affected. It is where this
It's their livelihood.
It was where it was discovered that the fertilizer was actually
Not
fertilizer. So I think because of that, they decided to demonstrate that we are actually protecting you. We are actually representing you. I hope they are going to do the same on Monday when we'll be now in the House to deal with this matter and dispense with Honorable Linturi.
Please.
You know, the speculation right now is that with everything that's going on, the committee starts its sittings today. Today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then it comes back, to the full house after they found out whatever it is that they're looking to find out, right?
Yeah.
The speculation is rife that we're just going to, and in fact, I said it when I was sitting here. I said,
Yes, you did.
There's time being wasted here. We're going to waste money, sitting allowances, have a cup of coffee here and there for the next, it'll be intense. There's an 11-man committee already been formed, but then we're going to go back. How do we know that this thing, which you've talked about so vehemently, about individuals going wherever they go to get a little bit of something, is not going to replicate itself in this matter right now with the fertilizer issue?
That
the
is
CS
why
impeachment.
That is why the formation of that committee, unfortunately, again, we have this committee is not supposed to be a committee of Azimio or Kenya Kwanza.
It shouldn't.
This is a committee of the House. But the way it is formed is such that the opposition gives a certain number of members, and then the government side, the majority side, or the minority side gives a certain number of members, and the majority side gives a certain number of members. And the unfortunate bit is sometimes, I don't know how this committee has done their bit, but sometimes we have such committees, instead of these members representing the people, they again go there to represent their coalitions. They go there to represent the selfish interests of their various political affiliations. I hope this is not what the committee will do, because from the vote that we had in Parliament, 79% of members voted to have Linturi impeached. That is the mood of the members of Parliament.
Okay.
And that is a representation of what actually Kenyans need or Kenyans want. And it was one of the fastest votes. It took us about 10-15 minutes to actually be done with it.
It was clear that this is what members of Parliament wanted, and also
Yes.
how they were going to represent their people.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
How do we guarantee, or rather, just the fear that you're expressing now seems to be something that happens willy-nilly in Parliament, as City would say. That how do we know that folks are not representing the interests that they have politically and are actually representing people? It just so happens that every now and then it just happens to align, that the position of your party sometimes happens to be what the will of the people is, so we're going to go with it. But it seems like a circus to me, and there's all kinds of horse trading that's going on, and that if it is the will of my party leader and my party, then that's the way I'm going to vote. Is the will of the people constitutionally actually being upheld in Parliament according to the Constitution every time? Not even, even values, Mweshimiwa, is it being upheld? Because here we see another opportunity for the contest to take place between two warring sides.
That's unfortunate. Truth is, the interests of the people are not genuinely represented in Parliament, because we get to Parliament and instead of representing the people, we start representing our various political affiliations. I'm hoping, I cannot guarantee that this particular committee will do what the people desire.
Oh my goodness.
That is what we hope. We hope they will actually do that, because from the way we voted in Parliament, it is indeed a demonstration of what people think out here. What I fear is, last year when we were passing the finance bill that has really made life very difficult in this country, what happened is members of Parliament, including those from the majority side or government or UDA or Kenya Kwanza, went even to their constituents, went across the country asking their constituents, what do you think, how do you think I should vote for this finance bill? And after taking them through a few of those clauses, a majority of them were told, go and vote no, do not vote for this particular bill. But guess what? When they got to Parliament, before they got to Parliament, there's something called a parliamentary group meeting. They were summoned to was it State House, and quickly gifted, and they came totally changed, and they passed this particular bill that has oppressed Kenyans. And even now, there's another finance bill coming. And even on the issue of the housing levy, they know it is unconstitutional, even as we have passed it. Still, remember, housing is a county function. It is not a national government function. There are no details on how you will own a house in that particular scheme. There are no details on how the land ownership, this is government or public land. Why are you gifting a private company to build on public land? And why are we not explaining why are we not making laws of transfer of land from county governments to national governments, and a law of moving the function of housing from county government to national government? And again, as in, there are a lot of other questions that haven't been answered. But what did they do when we were called to Parliament to quickly pass this particular law? They quickly voted for it.
Okay, so sorry. This is also similar to what would be happening with the Social Health Insurance Fund, otherwise known as NHIF. You're a member of the Health Committee, so that obviously is front and center for some of these issues. And the questions that you ask with the full integrity and the full character of structure, were these questions asked? Because these things, you know better than I do, that these things don't just find their way into Parliament and become bill. They're debated. There's plenary. You sit, you have discussions about these things. People put forth their arguments, their rebuttals here and there. Did these questions actually come about? And that's talking about the housing levy. Did these questions come about when we were talking about the Social Health Insurance Fund? Do these questions come up? But even though they come up, my question is, what happens when these questions are raised? Who answers or doesn't answer? Or who then insists that these issues be dealt with before it is enacted?
By the way, you've asked very, very important questions. Do we actually debate? One of the biggest challenges we have in this country is we hardly, genuinely debate exhaustively on so many bills. And the second thing is, the way of communication, especially from the majority leader, quickly arouses opposition instead of debate. The leader of majority is so, what can I call it? You know, there's arrogance and then there's the next level.
Okay.
Yeah?
Beyond that.
Yeah,
Okay.
beyond that.
This is what you feel.
That is what he demonstrates.
Okay.
And because he knows he has already bribed the members of parliament from the majority side.
Come on,
he
Mheshimiwa.
Yes,
How
that
do
is the
you-
truth.
how- I
We
mean-
know, they confess.
Yes, but you know something?
Yeah.
Are you trying to say that in the absence of what you refer to as a bribe, that these members of parliament would vote differently?
Had we been doing secret balloting so that they don't know whom you voted for, these bills would not be passing. That is the case.
That is
now,
your view.
It is not my view. It is, you know, we sit, there's a place in parliament, there's a lounge where we take tea.
Yeah.
When we are there, these people they demonstrate to you how they have been colonized.
Wouldn't it be foolhardy for somebody to come and tell you, actually, you know what, Anthony?
Yes.
I was bribed and I collected this amount of money. Assuming that Anthony is now deaf, dumb, and blind, and will never speak of these things in the future. So it's either that they think that Anthony will never raise them again, or is it now we're seeing a situation where maybe that arrogance that you speak about is, well, I'm going to tell you that I was bribed and I know that nothing will happen whatsoever. Because I'm trying to imagine a situation whereby somebody was bribed, right? Because that's what, look, you're receiving money to do a certain thing that you shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
That's bribery. Why would they come and tell you point blank, you know what? Yeah. We received the money. I'm basically telling you, we know there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it.
That is what they tell us, by the way. That is what they tell us. That is what happens. And let me tell you.
So
for example,
then Parliament is a criminal enterprise.
Those are your words.
I'm asking.
But now,
It's a question.
But a lot of irregular things happen. Yet they know what they need to do is different from what they actually do. Look here. TSC is the sole agency that is mandated with recruitment of teachers. However, we have members of parliament from Kisii region who are selling TSC employment forms, members of parliament and a CS who go to funerals and functions and dish out employment forms. So you ask yourself, where are we as a country? Someone says, bring me someone here, I give him an employment letter for KWS. And it actually happens. A CS at a funeral in Nyamira says, give me one or two people from here, trying to show his sense of importance.
People who are given, do they actually eventually get employed?
Yes, they get employed, which means TSC has a leakage. The CEO and the top management of TSC are involved in criminal enterprise. How did this CS get the letters or these MPs? Yeah. So, like we are saying, we have a problem in this country. And the problem in this country has to be solved with what I call a revolution of values. A revolution of values that must go beyond my tribe, that must go beyond my political party, that must go beyond the leader of this coalition is from my tribe, that must go beyond even generations. And that is possible because we have seen it. I was telling, I was at your sister radio here, Vibes, and I was telling them, the other day, I usually speak a lot about matters to do with drugs and substance abuse and how we can try and encourage young people not to get into drugs or get them out of drugs. There's a country called El Salvador. It's in South America. This country has been riddled with a lot of corruption, drug cartels, that is where they used to reside, fraud, money laundering, that was the hotbed. But they recently elected some gentleman, I've just forgotten his name, who decided that country must change. He keeps talking about his legacy. Do you know that country is about to be free of drugs in 4 years?
Because somebody decided.
Somebody decided. This has to start with the top, not Anthony Kibagendi in Kitutu, Chache South, or yourself here at Spice FM. It has to start from the top. It is about, let me tell you, in life, if you go to a funeral, you find people are in a somber mood. People are mourning. There is no way you can laugh.
No.
You get infected with the mood therein. You also start mourning.
Yeah.
You get in that particular mood. The school that I went to, a very one of the most distinguished schools in this country.
Of course.
Maseno School.
Yes.
The Maseno School. What happens there, when Form 1s come in, they come in for a week earlier.
Yes.
They have to report to school. And then there's something called orientation.
Yes.
The orientation they get is, they are not told to do this, do that, do the other. No. They just watch and see what the
How
Form
things
2s,
happen.
Form 3 and Form 4s are doing. By the second week, they need to get in. They need to just plug in and do everything that the rest of the students are doing. Now, in Kenya, we have made corruption, incompetence, and lack of motivation to work. It has become part of our culture. To the extent now, when we have issues in this country, the president cannot stand up and say, hey, Linturi, you have messed up. No. You are my friend. Yes, I gifted you this opportunity. You have messed up. Please step aside.
Cannot why?
Why can't he do that?
Yeah.
It is because he's been cultured to absorb this and work with corruption. Corruption is the order of the day, even in his office, in everything that he does. OP is the highest when it comes to matters corruption. It is office of the president that leads from the front. So what we are saying, the culture of incompetence, the culture of corruption, the culture of lack of motivation comes from the top. If the top can change, like what has happened in El Salvador, where the president said, you need to investigate all of us, the cabinet. We are here, investigate. He called in the AG for that country. What we had when we came in, what we have now, and look at if we have borrowed from banks, then it is understandable. You borrowed, you took a mortgage and bought a house, you took this and bought a car, Other than that, beyond that, investigate even their relations, investigate even their relatives, so that we get to know if they're involved in corruption. That is what we need. Not identifying Kibagendi because Kibagendi is speaking his mind. Kibagendi is informing Kenyans about the systematic oppression of the masses by government. So you send DCI to him, you send anti-corruption to him, purely because I am speaking the truth. You see, that is the problem we have in this country. Instead of trying to gather all government resources that can help us stop corruption in this country, they are disjointed so that nothing happens.
And one has to ask then, because unfortunately or unfortunately, the body that is tasked with this very same thing that you're talking about is yours.
Parliament.
Right? Parliament.
Making laws.
And even for legislation,
Yes.
and also for oversight.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Auditor General says there are discrepancies here. Goes back to Parliament. She can only make the observation
And
goes back to Parliament to say that something should be done about it. Budgets then realize for certain things to be done, again, goes through Parliament. Parliament is the one who allows us to spend or not spend. Parliament is the one for whom a criminal enterprise comes about, and we say, Parliament now tell us whether we are going to investigate or not. Do you see? All of this then comes back and lands at the seat of Parliament. And I can understand what you're talking about, bringing in a leader, choosing a leader then who is going to be the El Salvador, right?
Yes.
But in the one that you have today, is it possible for there to be a rising up from the House that is tasked to do those three things, to say, you know what? Not on our watch.
How I wish that can happen.
Not on our watch. It doesn't matter who affiliation I have. Is it possible that before you get somebody that you're going to bring in as a future leader, that the people who are tasked with the responsibility of making sure that everything is done with the character of integrity at whatever level is done, not on our watch? Can Kenya today have a parliament that says not on our watch?
Kenya today can have parliamentarians, but not the whole house. That is why Kibagendi is different, Jack Wamboka is different, Babu Owino will be different. You get? Or Catherine Omanyo will be different. We have a problem. It is not about individuals, certain like myself, because what I do or say in Parliament is what my people. I do a lot of consultation before I can actually get involved. But the problem we have is, even after doing that public participation, and they realize this is what Kenyans want, the majority side, the Kenya Kwanza side, what they think is about how do we make a kill out of this. These people want to stop us from eating through the housing levy. These people want to stop us from eating through the social health insurance fund. These people, because like now, the social health insurance, you brought me here some time back to talk
we did,
about it.
As it was coming through, yes.
You know, the social health insurance fund, the 3 laws that have come up are fantastic. They are transformative.
Indeed.
They are supposed to improve the healthcare of this particular nation. However, we did not need such, we did not need to change the law. We just needed departments at NHIF to deal with the emergency, to deal with the digital, to deal with the fund for facilities,
yes.
Facilities fund. That is all we needed, yeah, departments. But because the top and the schemers thought the best way first is to come up with a new authority and then brand all these people working at NHIF as corrupt, as incompetent, as people who lack integrity. We declare all of them redundant so that we have an opportunity to employ our people. That was the first thought. The second thought is...
that was your understanding of what happened.
Yeah. Yes. Now, the second thing is they have come up with, in a medical insurance, the core mandate of a medical insurance is approvals of Kibagendi has come to hospital. Can we treat him? The insurance approves. Yes, he's up to date. You can go ahead and treat him. The second part of an insurance, again, is Kibagendi was treated in such and such a hospital. They did a knee cap replacement at such a hospital. They need their payment. Yeah? Again, that is processed. That is approvals and claims management. Do you know that core mandate has been moved from that authority to private insurance brokerage firms, which are owned by friends or actually these people who are pushing this particular agenda? And we said, remove this particular clause. If you're coming up with a new authority, then have a department dealing with that. But they have quickly, because they know how much money they're going to make out of it. Let us quickly go to our phones and calculate some amount here.
Okay.
If an insurance company mandate right now, NHIF has about 18 million clients, but the very active ones who continually use NHIF, they're give or take 8 to 9 million. Let's work with 9 million people.
Okay.
Let's work with 8 million. 8 million people coming to hospital, and then the agency, the ones that have been given this, the private sector that has been given this contract,
yes,
to call the social health insurance that Kibagendi is here. Can we treat him?
Yes.
They charge, let's say, 500 shillings for that transaction, that call. 500. And then again, the day they'll be calling to say Kibagendi was treated in this hospital, this hospital actually needs to be paid. This is their claim. That's another 500. Let's put it at 1,000 shillings. That is 8 billion shillings,
yes,
going into private entities. This is what I want people to understand. 8 billion shillings per year. This amount could be plowed back so that the very poor can access the best medical care in this country.
What's so difficult about having that understood? Because one would assume that, such an argument placed would be, it's easy to understand.
They understand, but their focus is to make this money. They understand.
Do they understand the consequences?
They do.
No,
they
don't.
do.
They
do.
They actually don't.
They do. Because their focus is how to make money.
The reason
use
why,
that money to manipulate the voters so that they continue staying in power.
Mheshimiwa, the reason why I say they do not is because best case scenario in such a case is that you will not be elected again. Best case scenario. That's best. Worst case scenario is that people decide they've had enough of this. Now, the problem with people saying they've had enough of this, you don't know what they are going to do and how they are going to react. Okay? Unless you're planning to leave the country, as soon as the term of office is over, if you live here, those consequences will follow you right to your home.
I mean, conversations that we need to keep having, and our time is running out, but the hope is that we will have in now a house that will say we will not allow these things, not on our watch. Maybe that should be the slogan.
What I would request is this.
Yeah.
Members of the fourth estate, if you can consistently incite members of the public, voters, against members of parliament. That way, inform. Yeah, let me use inform.
Yeah.
Is inappropriate.
Yeah.
No, it's not
inform.
It's not what we do.
Yeah. If I was taking you there, not what you do, I was hoping you can do it, but you've given it a better term.
Yes.
Inform consistently.
Yeah.
Not that when they vote for the finance bill, you put a list of members, and within 2-3 days, people have forgotten. It is continually reminding people. Continually. Let me give an example.
Our time is actually running out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're done at this point.
A short example.
2 seconds.
Probably I give my closing remarks other than the example, but it happened in Senegal, where someone consistently spoke about certain issues to the extent even members of parliament who had been bribed to change the constitution to give Macky Sall another term were unable, even when they were initially willing, because the masses ganged up and said, no, this cannot happen.
Indeed.
My closing remarks is to tell Kenyans that we are in an era that we have information. It is not like when we were in the 80s.
Yeah.
We have information. Can we confront our leaders respectfully and demand our leaders to be accountable in the roles that we gave them to play? And secondly, I would like to urge young Kenyans, especially the youth of this country, drugs are destroying our youth. Keeping off drugs is easier than getting off drugs. Kindly while we understand that there are no jobs, while we understand that there are no opportunities, getting into drugs is not the way out. Drugs destroy families, they destroy careers, they destroy even your health. Kindly keep off drugs. Thank you.
Anthony Kibagendi, the Member of Parliament for Kitutu, Chache South Constituency and a member of the National Assembly Health Committee, has been our guest this hour. Good words to end on, not on our watch. Thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to conversations.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.